Kyungjan asked, what is the relationship between Ilhwan-Song, one circle image, and human beings? The founding master answered, you have asked about a great truth. In our order, we enshrined Ilhwan-Song in the same way that Buddhists in the past have enshrined Buddha images. However, while a Buddha image manifests the physical form of the Buddha, Ilhwan-Song manifests the mind essence of the Buddha. The physical form represents only his human form, but the mind essence is vast and infinite, combining being and non-being, and sustaining itself through the 3 time periods of past, present, and future. Hence, it is the original source of the myriad things in heaven and earth, and the realm of samadhi beyond all words and speech. Confucianism calls it the grand ultimate, Taeguk, or the ultimate of non-being, Muguk. Taoism calls it nature or the way, Tao. Buddhism calls it pure Dharmakaya Buddha. In principle, however, all of these are different expressions for the same thing regardless of which direction or which road one takes at the ultimate stage. They all eventually lead back to the truth of Ilhwan. If anything that calls itself a religion does not found itself upon such a truth, then it is a deviant way. Therefore, our order designated the truth of Ilhwan-Song as the paradigm for relating that ultimate truth to our daily lives and elucidated also the 2 gateways of faith and practice. When Wang Gong asked me to speak today with something from this doctrine chapter, I tried to think about what's been on my mind, and this kind of seemed to fit, but I couldn't pull it together about what's been on my mind, but it's kind of in here. And so I thought I would reflect, and hopefully it's of some use, on what Master Satyasana is doing in this whole chapter, but in this particular one too, because at least I find it kind of interesting what he did. So when I gave the title of this talk to the reverends, they changed it back to the one here. I wanted to say, what's the but I'm happy they did. And I'll tell you why. It's a minor change, but I wanted to say, what is the relationship between Ilhwan and human beings? Instead of Ilhwan-Song. Because I think, and as even Master Satyasana says later in this chapter, Ilhwan-Song is a symbol. It's not the real thing. And so, but then I started thinking, yeah, Ilhwan-Song, it's like the finger pointing at the moon. But what is Ilhwan-Song pointing at? We can look at the moon. It's a little harder to see Ilhwan. So Ilhwan-Song has a little more to it than I wasn't giving it enough credit in a way, in terms of how powerful it is and how, in some sense, it does relate in some very real way to human beings, because it's a manifestation of Ilhwan itself. We are a manifestation of Ilhwan. Everything is a manifestation of Ilhwan, but Ilhwan is not visible. It's not something we can see or look at or, worship or think about very directly. Ilhwan-Song gives us something to think about. So I thought, okay, now, and you have asked about a great truth, Master Satyasana says. But then he goes into, well, we did the Ilhwan-Song rather than the Buddha image. I thought, wow, okay, that must be really important, because he mentions this a lot in this chapter. And at first I thought, well, in Asia, the Buddha image is very familiar, and so people aren't confused about that, about when he says it takes the place of a Buddha image. They kind of know what it means. But I thought about, the Buddha did not want to have Buddha images. When the Buddha died and as he was dying, his followers said, what are we going to do without you? He said, follow my teachings. He didn't say follow my image. He didn't say try and be me. He said follow my teachings. And you know, in the beginning, they not only followed his teachings, that's all they did is they memorized his teachings. I don't know if they followed him or not, but they memorized them a lot. That's what Buddhism became for a while, memorizing the Buddha's teachings. Okay. So I'm thinking, now Master Sotaesan knew all of this after he became enlightened. And I thought, you know, he's trying to think about not only now, but posterity. He's trying to think about, he wants something that isn't about, he doesn't want people to follow him, even though he wants people to do what he did. He doesn't want them to be worshiping him or following his image, his body, and he wants them to follow his teachings, but he doesn't want them to go memorizing his teachings either, though he wants us to use them. So he came up with a symbol that kind of he thought would speak to everyone, but in a way that also would be hard to understand, that would make us keep questioning and wondering and trying to think our way through. He also came up with a path that when I came into this practice, I'd been doing what I do, studying Buddhism ideas for 2 years. And for me, that's studying. That's like, getting into everything that I could have in 2 years. And when I first came to, Won Buddhism, I thought, wow, this stuff isn't very deep. This is pretty straightforward and simple and everyday sort of stuff. And over time, I've realized everything I thought that wasn't very deep is in here very deep. But he did it, he introduces it to us in the best possible way, I think. There may be people who are very deep and know about things I never knew about before and, really could, go right into the depths of things and really find their original true nature in a day or so, which I've been focusing so much on lately because I can't find it. But I realized, he figured out a way to both put all the depth and profundity of all the Buddhist teachings, and the elaborations of it in his teachings, but he did it in a way that pointed at the path, pointed us towards a life that was not only meaningful for ourselves and would move us towards finding our original true nature and enlightenment, but also help us to change the world over time and to bring about a different world. And so he does go deeper in the middle of this. He talks about Taoism and the grand ultimate in Confucianism, the Dharmakaya Buddha, and the truth of Il-Wan Song. So he starts out with the Il-Wan Song image, but then the truth of Il-Wan, but then he finishes up, and I thought it was kind of interesting, with as if it's an afterthought, relating Il-Wan Song as a paradigm for the ultimate truth in our daily lives. And at the very last sentence, and elucidated also the two gateways of faith and practice, like an afterthought or something. But it's not an afterthought at all. It's kind of like all this spiritual power and growth that we want to develop in Buddhism and Won Buddhism, is available. But how do we make it available to everyone and ourselves? Well, the gateways of faith and practice. It's spelled out very clearly, but as you practice it over time, you realize these practices are a lot more than just thinking, a lot more than just gratitude and the threefold practice, which is a lot, not a little, but like a way to practice, a way to be in the world, a way, it's got a lot of depth, but he gives it to us in a way that we can understand it over time, that we can grow and become deeper over time. I did think all this was sort of interesting. I hope you do too. Thank you for listening.